Hello and welcome back to the show, everyone. I am so excited to bring this guest to you today because she has a very special place in my heart and she serves a special role in my story. So let's all welcome Tiffany Peterson.
Sis, we do have so much richness in our experiences together and just catching up and about, being at your wedding not too long ago, although I know it's been years. It's like, wow. And then the babies and all the things. So I'm so looking forward to being here with you and conscious conversation and love what you're creating.
Thank you. I think all my listeners, if they don't know about you already, they're about to be in for a treat. And Tiffany, you truly have brought so much learning to my life. I say this with actually a grave heart that I don't know how I would have continued on my path if I hadn't met you. So you're doing the work you're meant to be doing in the world and you're helping people. And if you ever forget, as I know we all forget, no matter how much success we have, I know I have days where I'm like, is anybody listening? Does anyone care? Do I actually make a difference? Should I shut down my social media accounts? Should I take my website off? Should I shut this podcast because maybe nobody is listening and it doesn't really matter and I'm just on some weird ego trip? I go there.
Yeah.
You go there.
Totally. Yeah, we all have days in this entrepreneurship path where we're like, I'm selling it all. I'm out of here. I'm going to move to another country and just like hide out in a fort. Like we all can have those moments. And to your point, I do truly believe in serendipitous or synchronicity of timing of who we meet. And I was reading something about that in the last 24 hours is that no one you meet is by accident. Now, what role or how long or the depth of connection, I do think we, of course, have choice to. And we have choice in all the matter, but I do think we cross paths with certain souls or all souls with intention or purpose potentially. So I'm at least willing to embrace that thought, like, we were meant to cross paths.
For sure. So let me fill the audience in a little bit on the backstory here. As you all know, I used to be a Los Angeles party girl, and I took all the drugs and I drank all the cocktails. And I got to a place in my life where I was like, hold on, if you continue down this trajectory, you are going to die, or worse, you're going to live your life alone and as a shell of a person. So I made a big, bold change in my life. And I found essential oils. I found a network marketing opportunity that I was able to dig into and throw myself into, products that helped me to heal. And what I did is for 4 years, I ate, slept, breathed, everything, my business. I had no room for anything else in my life. I never got my hair done. I never got my hair did. I never bought new clothes. I never went on vacation. I put every dollar I made from my business back into my business because I was seeking the coveted $10,000 a month income mark, a leadership role in my company so that I could finally feel like I was worth something. And then the day I reached that goal, which is it's supposed to be like, the sparks fly and you've made it. It's amazing. The day I reached that, I looked around and I had no one to celebrate with. I didn't feel different. And in fact, I felt depleted. I felt sad. I felt purposeless. And this divine intervention, the grace of God, the universe, our guardian angels, whatever it is, I had been listening to this chick, Tiffany Peterson, and she was awesome. I was like soaking it all in. And she had you had this little social media contest where you asked us to share your stuff with people, and whoever shared the most would win a coaching session with you. And at that time, I had never paid for coaching in my whole business. I'd reached 6 figures, never paid for coaching. I won this session with you. I can still see it in my mind's eye. When it was time for the call, I was in my car. I pulled over on the side of the road and you talked to me. And what you told me might be extremely surprising to everyone listening. You said that I needed a joy list. And you gave me an assignment that I needed to do at least one item. I think it was a day, one item a day. It was pretty extreme. That was from my joy list. So something that I love doing that didn't move my business forward necessarily. That was really just for me. And that saved me in that moment. And I was able to go on. And the next phase of building my business was very different than the first phase of building my business. And that was 2012. We are now 2023 here.
Dang, girl.
Right?
Wow. That's just like, dang. I mean, that's 11 years ago, right?
11 years ago. And your teachings, they guide my life every day. I pass them on to my team. I pass them on to my children. You've made a huge impact. And what I think is so amazing and what I really want to talk about today is what you brought to my attention was I was an active workaholism. Maybe you didn't know that.
I don't think I knew that.
You knew that?
I said, I don't think I knew that, at least consciously, but the awareness of a lot of times people who are go-getters make things happen. And whether that's coming from survival, like a lot of your past, I've got to take care of myself and fear's running the show, or approval or wanting, or I'm the oldest child, or I'm after perfect. Like a lot of times when people are, it's like, oh, they're hustling, they're making things happen. I may not have known it consciously, but just the awareness, like this girl needs to give herself more breathing room. And many of us need to. Many of you listening, this is you too, is like the space to breathe and the space to savor. And when I think of what a joy list is doing, is one, it changes up your state, right? And the concept, the assignment is come up with 24 things that bring you joy, 12 things that cost money, 12 things that don't. So if you've never done this, or it's been a while since you visit this list. And then you start, it's like you intentionally date yourself and you give yourself permission outside of it being Mother's Day, your birthday, Father's Day, that kind of thing. And from the simplest things of like going on a walk, watching a sunrise, right? Again, you have 12 things that cost money, 12 things that don't. So there's plenty of things you can do that don't cost money, right? Like I just mentioned, going on a walk, watching a sunrise. But yes, going to your favorite juice bar or getting a massage or taking that trip or playing some golf or various things. The point is that it drops you into more joy and present living. But when I think of joy listing or creating time for joy, I think of the word savor. And it allows us to savor more of the life. And I think when we met and crossed paths, it was like you'd been hustling, creating, you're a rock star, and just feeling that internal pressure of I'm always got to be on the move. I got to be moving, creating, hustling versus are you savoring any of this? And ironically, how some of you are going to get to your next level is you're actually going to work less. You'll be productive in your work, but you're going to work less in terms of time and have more things that are restorative to you. And when you make peace and priority and there's place in your life for things that restore you or nourish you, right? Like, are you well nourished physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually is what you're after is nourishment. And some of us are really starved. We might be consuming, but are you nourished? And there's a difference between consumption and nourishment. And so it's doing those things. And that's a lot of, I think when we did that first session, it was just holding space. And a lot of times you probably experience this as coaching and mentoring others too, is you give people permission to honor what their soul, their body, their heart, their intuition is likely already very clear on. But it's like, can I really take time to like, oh, won't that mean that like I'm not responsible, or, ooh, like that has some weight to it, or am I not motivated to hit my goals if I take some downtime? And more, it's just the permission of, You're doing things that restore you, which then ultimately give you more energy, right? To achieve or expand, or even just, again, savor more of the life you're already living or creating.
Yeah, I think as I'm hearing you speak, the savor word is so poignant because for myself, I'm either in trauma response and complete disassociation.
Mm.
So I don't feel anything. And this is why I can work really hard. Or I'm in total burnout, total exhaustion. And that's still a place of not feeling because it's like Netflix, can't move, cancel everything. The line that I want, the muscle that I want to work is this place where I'm open and feeling and savoring every moment and present in my relationships. And that is a weak muscle for me because I've lived so much of my life on either side. But to really be, and this is when you work with people one-on-one, whether you're coaching or you're selling a product, if your client meets you and they're like, whoa, they are so present, like we're connecting and they feel me, that's when they then trust you and want to purchase what you're offering. But I think I have not given myself the honoring of how weak that muscle is for me.
Mm.
Do you find that with your other clients? Have you come across this before?
Which part of it?
Difficulty in being truly present and vulnerable.
Yeah. I mean, isn't this work? I mean, that's work I'm doing. We're all doing. It's like we live. I mean, consider the time that we live in, Erin. Like, think about this. Think about your great grandfather or great 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 grandfather. If we all go back far enough in our ancestral lineage, we were all connected to farming and agriculture. Some of you listening have an active farm now, whether a small farm with a few chickens and plants and vegetables that you grow to like full blown, like massive amounts of land and acreage and crops and things. But imagine your great great grandfather as an example that he got up to do his day and started probably at the crack of dawn and had a hearty breakfast and goes out to the fields to care for the animals and care for the land. And he might come in once or twice during the day, right? To have lunch and so forth. Imagine your great great grandfather, even just on the hour, every hour coming in to make sure, has anyone called or checked the mailbox? Imagine, see how much disruption that is, that even if once an hour he's coming in from his focused work or his focused time with the earth that he's cultivating, and he comes back in to check his messages. The average human in the United States, they estimate, touches their phone, picks up their phone, checks their phone, an average of 125 times a day. Imagine your great great grandfather coming in from the fields 125 times a day, let alone even 20 times a day. And that kind of distraction, that kind of influence. Now, I'm grateful for my smartphone. I'm grateful for technology. That's how we're meeting today, where you're in Oregon and I'm in Salt Lake City. And I love technology. I love my smartphone. But what we don't maybe always realize is in the timing that we're living in is the amount of distraction, right? You and I are the same age. And there was a point where television would go off the air at night, or you had to catch a television program long before DVR. Then that changed the game, right? And you could watch your program whenever you wanted and things like that. Well, now we live in a world of constant streaming. There's always information. There's always media. There's always stuff we can be, quote, consuming or disrupted by. And again, it's not a negative thing. It's just an awareness of how overstimulated our nervous systems are. And constantly, one of the biggest things that we're working with, and when I drop into my own productivity or teach this concept, it's called, this concept of time blocking, right? And the concept of, hey, I'm going to create space for productivity. But just realizing that for all of us, yes, being present is something that's like, oh, wait, that takes some time, to be more intentional, because we are living in a different season and time of the human race, of what we're up against. And so that's why, like you and I talked about today earlier, it's like going on a walk today and just being more present with the earth and getting in the sun. That's a presence activity. Or meditation comes in lots of forms. That can be definitely in a meditation, like I'm listening to a formal meditation in a state, in a position. But it's like sometimes even doing the dishes or doing laundry can be meditative, that puts you more present moment, or time with your kids, or time with, intimacy at times with your sweetheart. Like it just drops you into being more present. So I think all of us, we want to release any shame or judgment on ourselves of, gosh, I'm just not as present as I'd like to be. And then switch the shame or that discomfort into an intention that we set, which is, I'd like to be more present to my life. I want to be more, I like to call it, I'm more alive in my living. And I'm more present to the savoring, right? And the joy. And so we practice these things. We practice being more mindful, right? Mindfulness is not a state you achieve and you're there forever, as you know. We practice being more mindful, more present. Like right now in this moment, as you listen to Erin and I, take a deep breath and just look around your current environment and notice, right? The colors, the people, if applicable, the textures, your inside, your outside, the items in your home, and just becoming aware of like, wow, I woke up today, right? The odds of you being in a human body are about statistically 1 in 400 trillion. The fact you even were incarnated into a human body, you're a literal walking miracle. Right now, there's a life force in your body that's growing your hair, growing or processing your food, beating your heart, processing oxygen, right? Growing your toenails. Like there's a life force literally in your body right now. And it's like, wow, that's right. We woke up today. Now I have to practice this too, though. And so does everyone I ever coach, right? And that's why we have, like, the joy list is simply a practice. We have practices, we have rituals that help us be more intentional creators of our life. And that to me is the work I'm just so passionate about, both as the student in living it and as the teacher holding space for others to wake up more so to their own aliveness in their living, their own potential.
It's interesting that you're bringing this up, because just the other day, I was walking through my cute town of Ashland. You've been there before.
Oh, I love where you live, girl.
So cute. And I had this really interesting thought come across my mind, because I've experienced being a drug user and a heavy drinker, and what that feels like. And I have someone who is close to me who's just going through a relapse right now. And the thought that was coming across my mind is, why do we seek to escape? This place, it's so beautiful. It's so amazing. Just when you say that, like, look around, I see this blue sky and these trees, and I'm with you, my friend, and I'm drinking something wonderful. I have my oils. Like, it's so much goodness. So why do we choose to escape through whatever means it is, whether it's drugs, alcohol, shopping, working? And
yeah. Why do we?
Why do we? Because this is where I get a little dark. Trigger warning. I'm going to talk about suicide ideation right now. So plug your ears if you don't want to hear about that. But my next thought then goes, if we don't want to be here so bad, why do we stay and escape? And it's been a contemplation that's been going through my mind, because I've been a young girl who was in the depths of depression and thought, I don't want to be here. And I've also been that same young girl who chose to stay. And I look around, I'm extremely empathic, as I know you are. And I do see so many of us human beings not choosing to be fully present. And I do wonder why. What is it? And is there anything we can do about it?
Well, I love the question. We could be here like 3 hours. Girl, I love, like, you're like, let's just get in the deep end of the pool with the human journey. It's like, hey, we're not going to talk about goals or, something, rah, rah, let's go. We're going to talk about depths of the human soul and why this just popped into my thought process. One of my favorite writers of all time is a gentleman named Mark Nepo. And many of you probably have at least heard of his book called The Book of Awakening, because it was on Oprah's favorite thing, something or other, years and years ago. And it's a daily devotional type book, a daily reading book. And he's just one of the best writers about the beauty and the messiness of being human. I mean, think about giving birth to both of your baby girls and how beautiful that was and how painful and messy it was at the same time. And you could hold both at the same time, the beauty, the love, the exquisiteness, the depth of surrender that you had to go to literally birth these babies, and the exquisite life that came through you as this incredible mother vessel. And it was messy and painful and a big freaking what the heck at moments too. That's real talk. And so you can hold both, right? The yin and the yang. And the same side, a coin has two sides. And there's, some would say, a blessing and a burden. One's on one side and the other, but it comes together. And this life is beautiful and messy for all of us. So I think when we have permission for that, it can release expectation. But often, to your question, why are we numbing out? And I just invite you guys all with lightness, not judgment. Ask yourself, what's my favorite way to numb out? Because some ways of numbing out are not very socially acceptable, like your friend who might be needing drug or alcohol rehab. It's like, oh, wow. And some of gambling or porn addictions, we have more socially related addictions that we would judge with more, ooh. But we all have ways. We like to eat. Some of us overwork, shop, you said, or scroll our phones or Netflix, binge a whole lot, or we all have different ways we numb out. Why are we numbing out when life is so beautiful? Because sometimes life is a pain in the ass, and it's hard and it's messy and we're overwhelmed. But ultimately, I think why we numb out or why we're in emotional pain, which is why anyone entertaining suicide often isn't because most often they don't truly actually want to die. What they want is out of the pain they're in. And a lot of the pain that they're in is that life isn't matching an expectation. And when life looks different than the way you hoped or planned or what you thought it might be, then we have emotional pain. And so I know for myself, there's only been one season of my life. I've had moments of depression, and usually for mine, they've been situational. I've had one season of my life where I entertained exiting early. And it wasn't actually that long ago. It was 2018. So 5 years ago. And it didn't last long, thankfully. And I got help, I got support. But for me, I was really grieving the loss of a dream. And I had this idea, because we've been intimate, close friends. I really always thought I was going to have babies, my own physical babies as a mama. And I held so strong to that dream. And it was influenced by my religious faith at the time, and heavily, and like my walk with God, and that this was going to be. And I felt this deep desire to have a family. And then I realized as that wasn't happening, and there was some other things happening at that season, but it was around Memorial Day. I remember around May, it was May of 2018. And I just entered into about a 6-week stint of darkness, but it was really deep grief. And I wasn't planning on sharing that, but here we are, and I'm in it, and I'm going to share it. But there was some dynamics at play with my relationship with my earthly father, and we're in a much better place now, but there was pain there. And again, expectations not being met. And I had just broken up with this guy that, and I felt like, even though I knew that was so the right choice, and he's a nice, lovely human, but not my person. And I remember just feeling really a lot of discouragement and despair, and that it was like, this dream isn't ever going to happen. And making peace with that, the way that I'd planned. Again, my life reality was not matching my dream or my expectation. And I felt such heaviness and grief that I was like, well, maybe do I really want to be here? Because I don't know if I want to do this anymore. So I have empathy for anyone that's ever been there or felt those feelings or feeling them right now. And I'll tell you, again, I mentioned Mark Nepo, and again, I wasn't planning to put the two together, but I just trust spirit and we're being led. But I had this experience so that was May of 2018. In April, so rewind the month before, in April of 2018, I had two friends also in your essential oil company come to town for a retreat. And they came in like a day early, and we met up and we went up to Park City, Utah, and went and had some food together, brunched. And we just meandered through some shops in Park City. And we walked into my very favorite bookstore on the planet. It's called Dolly's Bookstore, independent bookstore. Dolly is a cat that walks around and cuddles you in the bookstore. And it's this great hardwood floor, mountain town, great bookshop. It's just got a vibe. But like you, I have plenty of personal development books and life books and spiritual books. I don't need usually more books, right? I'm going to keep buying them though, right? It's not about that.
Joyless.
Huh?
Joyless.
Yes. And I remember I said to myself walking into that bookstore that day, I said, I'm not buying a book today. I'm just going to look. Yeah. Famous last words, right? And I'm meandering through this bookstore. This is before this deep darkness had set in. So this is April. I'm in the bookstore and I'm just thumbing through some books. And this book I pick up by Mark Nepo, which again, I already love his book, The Book of Awakening. I pick up a book of his off the shelf called The One Life We're Given. And I open it just at random. Have you ever done this where you open the book at random, not like the first page, just wherever it happens to fall. And you open the book, and I read a passage and it so spoke to my heart and soul that of course I bought the book. And then I was really reading that book. And then as this darkness, this breakup happens, this disconnect with my dad, that kind of perfect cocktail. But somewhere in that time, I went and searched Mark Nepo and tried to, looked at him on Facebook, Instagram. At the time, he didn't have much social media presence. Go to his website, and he has a workshop coming up in the redwoods of Northern California at a place called 1440 University. It's like a communal space for great work and workshops and things in the redwoods. And he has a workshop coming up the 1st of June. And I know it's happening. It's coming up. Well, like 5 days out. So around the same time of Memorial Day, I remember Memorial Day because I was out doing yard work and I just felt this deep heaviness come over my soul and this like things. And again, it was really my thoughts mixed with this grief. And I was just in this dark place, but I felt so drawn to, I need to go to this workshop. He was hosting a weekend workshop under the same title of the book, The One Life We're Given. And like 5 days before the workshop started, I booked my ticket, got online, got my airplane ticket, went by myself. And I went to this workshop. And it was about 30 people, intimate group. And we were there in session for 3 days together, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I don't remember which day, but I remember I bravely asked the question in front of the whole group. I didn't say what it was about, but I said, what do you do when you have this soul dream? Not oh my gosh, my dream Range Rover isn't going to happen. We're talking about like in my cellular DNA, I have this dream that isn't happening and I don't believe is going to happen. Now, keep in mind, I'd had a regular cycle. I still have a regular cycle. And I'd given myself full permission if I wanted to get pregnant on my own or even adopt a child that I could. But it wasn't a hell yes. I really wanted the whole dream, that I was in a deep, beautiful relationship with a sweetheart, with my life partner, have a family. That family dream was gone or hadn't happened yet. And so I'm asked the question in the workshop. I just said, what do you do when you have a dream that's of your soul that's just not going to happen? How do you make peace with that? And he just gently, I remember he was saying, I can't say that I have any of the answers for all of us. We're all these humans working this out. But then he went on to tell this parable. He said there was this Buddhist monk who was journeying through the wilderness and came upon in their journey this massive, large river, not just a little creek or stream, massive, large river that you could not get across just by like trying to swim or get there or, whatnot. And he talks about how this Buddhist monk, either a raft appeared, again, this is a parable, raft appeared, or he built this raft. But this raft had so much significance to him in his journey. It was life-saving, literally, and it was instrumental to his journey. He gets in the raft, gets across the river, and he gets on the other side of the bank and pulls the raft out and, kind of hoists it up on his shoulders, and he's carrying this raft. And a day later, and 2 days later, and 3 days later, and several days later, or weeks later, he realizes he's still carrying this raft that had so much significance to him. That he's becoming aware, like, it's been for days, weeks, months, maybe even, that I've heard or smelled or experienced water, yet I'm still carrying this raft. And so this monk built a beautiful bonfire, and he put the raft in it and burned this raft that had had so much significance to him. And he said, I would rather burn this in reverence than carry you in resentment. And I just think for myself that it wasn't the one thing, but it was a significant thing to just realize, like, the path of surrender and trust, and really looking at, and I came home and I was working with a therapist that summer, and that helped me with some things. And again, there was a couple of layers of things going on at the same time, but it really helped me just be more aware of a few core of those life teachings. Is that I had a belief. I also got really intentional, like, why do you want to be a mom? And well, I wanted to raise these babies and have family traditions and do all these fun things matched with grow them up to have great self-esteem and contribute to the planet. And it's okay that, and it's still okay that at times that's tender for me, but I have done so much healing on this where it doesn't hold me in the depths of hell. And some of that is I had to get really clear about, I have a belief that having children would bring me this deep fulfillment. And the reality is, all of us, again, when we're in darkness or emotional turmoil, it's often because we're resisting what is. Life should be different than the way it is. My dad should be different the way he is. I should have this. My child should that. My partner should this. My mom this. The business that. The president that. This or whatever. It's like a lot of times our emotional turmoil is because life isn't matching what we have an expectation around. But then I have had so many, mostly I coach women with a business, as you know, so many conversations with moms where they have their own sets of challenges too, and kids with, this challenge or that thing, or gosh, motherhood. I've also had the sacred conversation with a lot of women where they're like, motherhood doesn't fulfill me the way I thought it would fully. I want to have my own business. I feel guilt around that. Shouldn't this fulfill my every whim? And I still want to create or do these things. And like, sometimes we have this belief that if life was just this way, I'd be so much happier. How do we know? You don't know. How do I know that the feeling I'm after, right? Which is a really great introspective process to do. What's the feeling you want to feel? What's the feeling you're after? And I wanted to feel purpose and contribution and family and community and depth. And I've just gotten that need met in a lot of other ways. It doesn't mean I dishonor that dream or desire, but I did have to burn the dream. Just like he burned the raft. I had to release it because it was literally going to snuff my life out of this planet. And so sometimes we have to make peace with, I'm so sorry that that person left you or hurt you, or that didn't work out the way you wanted. But I also think, as heavy as this conversation can sound, what I want you to realize is there's so much light here and freedom. And that when you come home to what's the feeling I'm after and how can I give that to myself? How can I show up for me? I remember, Erin, oh my gosh. I remember you prepped me a few days ago and you're like, maybe when you share things you don't normally share on a podcast. And I'm like, okay, I don't think I've ever shared what I'm about to share on a show. It's rare that what I've just shared, I've shared it a time or two. But I remember once, again, rewind the clock, probably 5-6 years ago, being in a bathtub, right? A hot soak on the joy list. And I remember I was in some depressive thinking. And I remember I was down some terrible thought process of like, well, maybe God doesn't trust me with children. Maybe I'm just not enough. And I remember I was asking God, I was like, God, do you just not trust me with kids? Like, am I just not enough for you that you would trust me for that to happen? And I remember Holy Spirit just dropped into my thoughts with this like lightness, like, well, I gave you you. And it was like, what? Like, how well do you take care of, like, take care of you, love on you. You're my creation. You're my daughter. You're this divine woman. Like, you're a child of the Most High, and like whatever language works for you. But it was like, oh, like, how well do you take care of yourself and show up for you? And sometimes we're waiting for children or a man or an achievement or a rank, right? Which what was kind of a disconnect for you is you achieve this big rank in your company and you're like, and I'm totally depressed because I thought that rank would give me a feeling. I would finally feel whole. I'd finally feel worthy. I'd finally feel like I belong at the cool kids table. I finally feel approval. You're after a feeling. So every one of you, anything that you want, whether it's more money, more intimacy, connection, you want to lose the weight, you want to advance in your company, you're after a feeling. Nothing wrong with it. But the more that you tune in and go, right now, I'm going to savor more of my life. Right now, I'm going to activate more of my mothering for myself and for my others, for my plants, for my pets, for my friends, right? It's like, I'm going to be an exceptional mother. I'm going to be a queen. I am her. And I started embodying more of that to like, I'm going to bring that love and that, because that's really what I'm after, and that kind of connection to it. And so thank you for the conversation and the safe space and the trust, because some of these are things we don't talk about every day, but they're so rich to the soul. And so again, being human is messy. It's okay if some days you're bugged and discouraged, even though you're like, I read all these damn personal development books, or I'm listening to Erin's podcast or your show or these things, and I'm trying to be positive, but sometimes I'm not positive. Good luck. I know I'm not positive sometimes too. It's like a week ago, we were still in the winter of like, that was like day number 754 here in Utah. And I was like, F it, I'm eating popcorn and chocolate for dinner. Right. And I did, and I loved it. It was just like, we get to be human too. Again, birth is beautiful and messy. Life is beautiful and messy. And I think the more that we go, okay, what life experience or expectation isn't being met is why you're having emotional pain. And then you also start asking yourself, do I love me? Show up for me. What do you need, sweetheart? You know, that's one of my favorite questions, where you tune in and self-soothe, matched with that joy list, or again, getting really clear. What's the feeling I'm after? That's a great question for wealth creation. When you're like, I want to be more wealthy. What would that feel like, look like, be like? Oh, it'd feel like this and this and this. Like me going on a walk this morning in the sunshine for 25 minutes, seeing the beautiful crocuses and tulips starting to bloom. It was like, that was a wealth walk today, right? Stopping by my juice bar and getting one of my favorite juices. That was felt like wealth to me. And shaved legs in clean sheets always feels like abundance to me. But you just get really clear, like, how can I activate more of that feeling right now? I'm already wealthy, or I'm already healthy, or I'm already connected. And you start practicing that, you more so tune yourself to the vibration. And in the very same breath, it's okay to also sometimes be sad or in grief. And the more I think we give ourselves permission, the less suicidal thoughts I think come up. Because again, the suicidal thoughts come from, I don't want to feel this way. It always feels this way. I don't think this is going to change. And that's a lot of resistance to what is versus, okay, this is sad. This is hurt. This hurts my heart. Okay. What do you need, sweetheart? I've got you. It's okay. But this is part of being human. And that permission, I think, is a healing salve in and of itself, that it's okay to feel those feelings. And then you realize that everything is temporary and this too shall pass. And it was like, so I can go back to those years, 5-6 years ago, where I was, and there's still moments I get discouraged and bummed and all of that at times, but that depth of darkness, I've been there once to that degree. And it was like, okay. And I grieved it, felt it, got support, but a lot of it was just was more into some of the acceptance. So I don't know where you want to go from there, but thank you again for the real talk, because I think more of us need to know that we have permission, that especially even those, and this is why, like literally part of why I posted that on social media the other night, a week ago, about my popcorn and my chocolates was, hey, even as quote a coach, because my past coaching mindset 10 plus years ago was, oh, I have to have my shit together all the time to be a coach, or who the hell are you to be coaching anyone? And it's like, no, I'm human too. I'm committed to my practices. I'm committed to them and I practice, but I also am a human. And sometimes we, do our workout and eat a healthy salad. And sometimes we eat chocolate and popcorn.
I just want to thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing such intimate detail of your life and kind of pulling back the curtain, because I do think it's so important for people to know that if you're on the journey, I call it a healing journey, the personal development journey, the journey to just be more present, you're probably going to go through days where it's not all sunshine and roses.
Mm-hmm.
And the more we can normalize that and talk about it and have people in our life, that was a big change for me too, is realizing, no, I don't have to mask all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to show up and actually answer the question honestly, how are you?
Mm-hmm.
Some days I'm great and sometimes I'm not so great. And I just think it's such a disservice for us to keep that to ourselves and to kind of put on a false face. And the gift to so many is when we share, hey, this is what helps me get back to wholeness.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I've really cultivated in the last couple of years is I've been working a 12-step program for adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional families. It's a wonderful program. It uses the 12 steps. And one of the things that you do in the 12 steps is you admit that you're powerless and you go to your higher power you give it to your higher power. And this was a big struggle for me for a long time because I come from religious abuse. And there's days when I'm like, I don't know if there is a higher power.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I had this profound realization, and I want to share it with everyone. And it was that God or your higher power or the universe, whatever that source is outside of yourself, it's not that they have the ability to fix it for us. It's not like you can go to God and say, God, please give me that baby.
Instantly.
Wave this magic wand and go,
Yeah,
here you go. It's more like if we stop thinking that we have the power to control everything, and instead we give that power back to the rightful owner, which is the cosmic universal force of love, God, divinity, which kind of in a way is a bit of chaos. But if we take that responsibility off of our shoulders, that it's our job to control this life and to have things go a certain way, and we just go, I give it to God. Like, I give it to God. Like, it's yours. This is your anxiety to have, because you're not going to hold it as an anxiety. I'm holding it as an anxiety because I'm trying to control it. But the minute I go, it's actually not mine to hold, I have found so much relief. I have found so much more peace. And at first I did it kicking and screaming and crying. And now I just do it joyfully. I'm like, I'm so glad you're there, higher power, because this actually isn't something that I can hold. And I know that you can hold it and transmute it. And I'm not going to expect you to fix my life or give, you're not going to give me everything that's on my wish list. But I know that I don't have to worry about it anymore. And it's that presencing that you're talking about. Like, my only job is to wake up every day and be grateful that I'm alive and look around and see the sunshine and the beauty and look for the surprises. Like, what if we let go of that belief that that expectation you're talking about, and instead we tuned our mindset to, I wonder what's going to happen today. I wonder what life I'm going to be living, what adventure is coming. I know we just have a few more minutes. We're going to wrap up. But what this is bringing to me, and my question for you, because we're a similar age, and because what I'm hearing is that you're embarking on, possibly your life is looking different than you thought it was going to look. I'm curious, how do you navigate this transition? Like, what's on your mind? What's in your heart right now? It doesn't have to be, I know we don't have a ton of time, but I'm contemplating, oh my gosh, I'm inching towards 50. And what do I get? What is my next phase of my life going to be like? What are some thoughts that you kind of want to close out this call with, and let us know how you navigate that reinvention, not only what you're saying, like, okay, maybe motherhood isn't in the cards, but also this movement into the second half of life.
Well, I think a lot of it, I'm feeling like regularly God in my life is teaching me about be open, and how abundant there is, so much goodness around. Again, you can feel all the heavy stuff too, but there's also so much brightness and beauty. And, for me, in the last couple of years, I've met the love of my life, my sweetheart. We got married this last year, about 7 months ago. He has 4 children. He's older than I am, and he has 4 grown children and a grandbaby who just owns us. And she's such a love. And learning and expanding my relationships with his kids and with this grandbaby, and more, hopefully, grandbabies to come. With 4 kids, I think there's more coming. But it's like that love and that opportunity. I'm not saying it's the same thing, but that has shown up in my life. And you'd known me a long time as being single, and I dated a lot. And I was like, I wasn't probably ever going to get married again. And I wasn't against it, but I just was kind of like, I don't know about that. And so, just being open to new frontiers and horizons, in the ways that, again, when you get really clear on what's the core feeling you're after, you can embody that into your life, and it gets to be created in different ways. It's similar that I never thought I'd be on stages speaking or coaching. I mean, I wasn't growing up like, I want to be this businesswoman. I was going to be a school teacher originally. And I even was going to school education at university for that, and worked in a couple of classrooms over 2 years as an aide to the teacher while I was doing that, really planning to be a traditional educator. And then by happenstance, went on a double date in college and met this woman whose dad had a training development company. And then I went to work for Franklin Covey and Stephen Covey's work, and then Rich Dad Poor Dad and Jack Canfield, which then ultimately, and I helped them make millions and millions and millions of dollars in personal development sales. And here I am. Then did so well selling. They asked me to be a corporate trainer and train the other sales reps. And then I went out on my own almost a little over 13 years ago. And so similar is like, sometimes life surprises you that it's the same heartbeat. It's just in a different form, where I'm still a teacher and I'm still a mother. It's just in different form. And so when you think about that, and I think a lot of it is, the gift is more and more that you become aware of, like, what lights me up, and asking those questions, and what lights me up, and what would I like to experience more of in this season. And one of the gifts, I think, of turning 40, not saying you don't have to wait till 40, you can have this happen at 25 or 67 or whatever age you might be, is the less you care about what everyone, quotes, thinks of you, which is really just a mind trap anyway, because most people are not sitting around just thinking about you. They're thinking about their own stuff. But the more you give yourself, again, we're back to permission, which is, what do I want more of for me? What would light me up? And from travel to books to things I'm passionate about, to hobbies, to work, to all the various things. And the more you're just giving yourself permission, where it's like, ooh, I mean, in some ways, yes, it's like I've been self-employed for 13 years and I've done some various things and levels of business and creations. And in some ways, though, it just feels like we were just barely getting into the good stuff, And so I'm very optimistic about the years and decades to come, and what that will be, because, again, part of the gift of being in my 40s is shedding more and more. What does everyone think? And what if this and what if that? And, oh, no, I have to do it this way or that way, is more self-permission to be true to you and what your heart wants to do. And so for me, there's some new courses in creation, and personally some more expansion of love and things that are just part of my life now in a different way than I had planned. Mm-hmm. And again, so it's like, often be open. You just never know. You never know what's around the corner. And that's a good thing, right? Like, there's goodness coming, and realizing that, to just be in, again, an openness and trust and surrender. One of my friends, Cute Blackson, he has a book called The Magic of Surrender. And he talks about that surrender plus trust equals magic. And that it's also, surrender's the key to freedom. And so you can have one of my mentors would call it have high intention and low attachment is yes, set the goals, have the vision boards, do the dreaming, the visualization, setting the intentions. And again, a lot of that being like, who do I want to be and how do I want to show up? What are some of the things I desire? Being clear, but then also realizing like not being as attached to the form, having a sense of openness and surrender, which can also be in the category of wonder and awe versus fear and white knuckling what the future holds for you, having a spirit of an energy of openness and trust and seeing what the magic is that comes.
I love that way of looking at it. It's kind of like you set this intention and you jump in a boat to get yourself there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times we're focused on, I got to get to the thing. But if you actually slow down and watch like what's happening on the side of the river,
Mm-hmm.
what's happening up in the sky, that's going to be almost more joyful. And by the time you get to your destination, you're kind of like, wow, I've already won. And I think that's where we want to put the path to success. And bringing it back to my story at the beginning, that's why I was unhappy. I reached the destination without looking around and enjoying the journey.
Yeah. Not a lot of savoring, right?
A lot of savoring. Oh, so good. Okay.
Yeah.
It's been such a joy to chat with you. I love this. We could go on and on and on. For everybody listening, if you want to connect with Tiffany, I'm going to put her website in the show notes. She's got freebies there. She has lots of awesome courses that happen throughout the year. If you'd like to book her at a live event, you can engage with her in coaching. I highly recommend it. And in closing, is there anything special you want us to know about that's coming up at the time of this podcast? Anything we should be watching out for? Or just should we just go to your website and check it out?
No, yeah, there's always things. My website has lots of, like she was saying, freebies. You can download those or those things. Then if you're on my email list, you'll hear about. There's lots of fun creations always up. I think the thing I want to wrap with really is just this thought. One of my favorite quotes of all time comes from a gentleman named Robert Stevenson. And whether you need to hear this for your health journey, your financial life, your sales or business, or your marriage or personal relationships, or whatever it might be, one of my favorite quotes of all time, a gentleman named Robert Stevenson has said this, where he says, "Don't judge the day by the harvest you reap. Judge the day by the seeds that you plant." To me, that's so empowering. Is every one of us, you can control the seeds you plant today. You can't control the sales or other people or certain outcomes, but how you show up and the way that you show up, for instance, in your self-care, your joy list, doing things for that. Take on that assignment if you've not done it or it's been a while, and nourish your own joy, plant seeds in your own joy, or do things to show up and add value to other people in your sales or your business or in your personal life. And it's like, yeah, because again, I think where a lot of times the opposite of trust and surrender is control and fear. Versus like when I'm really clear, like who do I want to be and how do I want to show up? And I'm clear about the seeds I can plant in my life. It's empowering. And it's also, there's so much joy. We'd often say, and I know this is sometimes a cheesy line used, but joy in the journey, but it's true, right? As cheesy or cliche as it sounds, but it's having more of that joy and more of that savoring comes from more intentional living. And so it's getting clarity to the seeds that you plant for yourself, your wellness, your relationships, your business. I think that's always an inspiring and empowering thought to end on. It's something we can do about it.
I love it.
I love you. Thank you for having me and being part of your tribe. I know many people in your tribe and community, and I just have a mad passionate, just love for this crew of yours. So thank you for having me, love.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon, Tiffany.